Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Go slow with me today because I will be doing my live along with a little bit of mentorship with YouTube, who is kind of talking me through some of the new features on their lives. And it was a little confusing in the start, but I understand that if I could just get in there into my studio and just do it from my studio, that I can use all the details from my channel rather than having to write out that whole spiel, right? I could just copy it and paste it into my live. And that suits me so much better than starting out from scratch. I would do it if I have to, but I came in through the back door. I found a way, and we're live. It's working. And one of you guys, if you look up here in your right hand corner here, it's another feature that YouTube is talking me through right now. And that is to give an option to the people who pop into my lives to ask them a question and have a little bit of input from you, the audience, rather than you sitting there and listening to me spiel off. But we could actually get a little bit of a perspective of your perceptions, or in the question that I just posted up here, what is one perception of you that people get wrong? It's a really, really good question because people get us wrong, don't we? Lots of times it's by our own faults because we are highly sensitive and empathic, and for the most part that kind of makes us private people. In a way, we can be talkers, we can schmoo, we like to have a good time, but in those really deep moments, right, we like to spend that time with ourselves, and we really don't get a true perspective of most people. If we're lucky, a few people within our family, if you have small groups and you take your time and picking your friends and picking your influences, but again, being a highly sensitive or an empath, you're probably pretty bad at that, right? You're probably pretty bad at that. Unless, right? And this is something I've only recently been playing with. And maybe I've always been playing with this, but didn't realize that it was a talent. It was something I could, well, I would have to say I've always been doing this because it's part of my hypervigilance, isn't it? Being highly sensitive, being empathic, I've always gone very, very, very slow with making friends. And yet, there have been times when I have just lost myself instantly, like so expanded in my mind, in my soul, in my feelings, you know, that when I meet people, I don't even sometimes certain people that I don't even question. Those scanners that I put the everyday, day-to-day people that I meet in the passing of my day. I put everybody through scans. It's part of my hypervigilance. It's part of my childhood trauma. It's part of me trying to keep myself safe, even though, right, I recognize that in this moment I am safe. But again, we were talking a little bit about that residue from the jets that fly over our heads, right? It was really funny because I left right after I did my live show yesterday. And when I walked out that door, a jet went right over my head, leaving a plume of that exhaust, I guess, or whatever that mix is, white streak that goes across the sky. And I giggled to myself. I thought, oh my goodness, that is so perfect for today. Forgive me, I am a little bit of a rat woman today. I went on a little bit of an adventure. I wanted to get outside for a little while. I didn't know what I quite wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to go outside. It was starting to rain, kind of snow rain, that wet, hard, blowing in the wind, right? Smack you in the cheek kind of snow. And I was okay with that because I bundled for a walk. Even though I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, I walked down the street. And in that split second, I decided that I was going to jump a bus, any bus. And I was just going to let that bus take me somewheres. Uh, and well, that wasn't quite true because what I did is I jumped a bus to the station and I jumped a bus I had never gone on before. I said, wherever it takes me. I was always curious because I see this bus all the time. But because it's an express and because it works through the stations, these are those really fast buses, they go really fast and they have their own roads alongside the train tracks. So they have free reign and I take those buses to work, but there are some buses that I'd like to see. Where do they go? Maybe they get me close enough to my work that I can take them rather than taking that safe route, those routes that I know, right? We all like a change of scenery, and I've been trying to introduce some change into my life. And, for the most part, I have been finding that change. And even though it might seem minuscule in its change, sometimes that's all it's needed. Sometimes we don't need to make those big changes, right? We don't need to make that big mess so that we have something to clean up, right? I just had in my mind playing Monopoly with my family and somebody throwing a fit and take. Usually it was me or my sister Tracy, and they would pick up the whole game and everybody's having a grand time. As soon as somebody loses a hotel or $1 million, right? Somebody took that board and just went psh, and threw everything up in the air, right? And of course, you have to clean it up, right? Those board games aren't cheap, and if you didn't clean it up, well, that little bit of frustration that everybody has with you for ruining the evening or the game to start with, right? Might be a little bit more of a lesson rather than something that goes, okay, let's go do the next thing. The game's over. Okay, so this week, you guys, we got this word, perception. And I put it quite a bit this week. I was in quite a bit of this relation to perspective because for me, it almost felt the same. And that's not a good thing because none of us got it 100% right. And that's part of my hyper vigilance. Move in the way I think, move in the way that I feel. Trust me, don't trust anybody else. We started the conversation about building that trust by taking our time, making friends, right? And it has served me very, very well because I have been grateful because I have stepped into those immediate situations where, right, I'm totally in love with someone or somebody is excited to hang with me or I get to have a new experience by being introduced to some different people, right? Because, you take on one friend, quite often you're taking on their sisters and their brothers, maybe their parents, maybe you're going for Sunday dinner, right? You're taking on their friends and their schoolmates quite often. And quite often your friends are mixing in that group too. So you can see in that hypervigilance how much we can miss in staying safe, right? It's kind of what's that saying, when you go to as an adult thing, but when you go to bed with one person, you're actually going to bed with every person that person has ever gone to bed with, right? And we know we don't always get it right. Very rarely do we get it right. And I know in my feeling my way along that, right, even though I do my best in being hyper vigilant because I know the topics that I'm talking about are very, very important, and we can't lead anybody astray, right? Most importantly, I can't lead myself astray because I show up here every single day sharing what I learn, sharing what I experience. Okay, so right back in perception. So, again, the question: what is one perception of you that people get wrong? And I'll tell you mine after, right, we finish with this. Which is hopefully all in the same line. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about my day. That how we can quite often get things wrong. I hopped on this bus that was unfamiliar, but it was my day off. It's Good Friday. We're rolling into Easter, right? The snow was coming down. It's mild outside. It was a very lovely day to start till it really started coming down and blowing and stuff and other factors. But I jumped on the bus. I wanted to get a new granny wagon, which is one of those two-wheel things where the grannies all carry them. But right now, university students are using them too. And I get great use out of mine. But this winter, I lost a tire on my granny wagon, so I couldn't drag it around when I went to the grocery store or to bring home my staff charges. And so I was always doing a lot of hauling for the past month or so. I know where to get them, but I have to take a bus. So that bus was going in that direction. I went, oh my goodness, well, I'll just get off where I can, because I could kind of see the building. So I said, oh, I'll just get off at the next stop and I'll walk and go get my granny wagon, which I've been wanting to get for the past month or two. And so that's what I did. I got off the bus and I got off in a brand new neighborhood and gonna send a little bit of good cheer because I got a fire truck that looks like it might be passing by the building. Hopefully it gets to its destination. It's a false alarm and they turn around and end up back at the station. So I got off the bus and I thought I saw the store that I wanted. And it was my day off. I knew it was a ways still because I could see it way, 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 way down there. I said, oh, I'll get a little bit of a walk in the snow in this neighborhood that I've never been in before. And I got off at one of the stations and I walked into a brand new development. Oh my goodness, just one apartment building after another for, I would have to say, a few miles because I walked probably a couple hours, I think, until I hit a road that I did recognize, which was way off in the opposite direction of the place that I was going to get my granny wagon. I looked for a bus stop, but right, it's an industrial, it's manufacturing plants and car dealerships. It's right. And then there's the new housing development, but I would have to turn around and go back the way I came. At the very least, if I've got to walk all that way back, right? I want a different landscape. Right? So I went down a couple of blocks until I found a road that looked like it was being used. And I just started walking. I must have walked 8 to 10 kilometers today. Got lots of fresh air. Got lots of new and different landscapes. And this city is truly, truly expanding. And it really, in that process of taking in the new landscape, right? I get to thinking about the growth of this city and the growth of this province, and then the growth of this country, and then I'm contemplating the growth of North America, and how far we've come since Jamestown, and right, and the first pioneers of Canada and the voyageurs, and right. So I was totally in my mind, right? But I had icicles. I had icicles going on, and my hands were cold, even though I had a pair of gloves in my pocket, because the rest of my body was super hot because, right, I'm trying to find where I'm supposed to be. And even though I enjoyed the walk, right, I was poked, and I wasn't even quite sure if I was even going to get my granny wagon, right, if they still carried them, because it's been a while since I bought one there. I wasn't even too sure if the store was open because it's Good Friday. I wasn't even too sure about that. That was okay. I was on an adventure. Whatever came across my path, that's what I was going to deal with. And I got lost today. I got lost in a neighborhood that I thought I knew pretty well, but because things are developing so fast, things are moving so fast that it looks so different, even in my own, not my own neighborhood, but a neighborhood that I did know well, looks so different. It's like I'm in a totally different city. Okay, so here's this question up top here, right? Just wanted to tell you about that. I got my granny wagon. I got my granny wagon. The store was open. As soon as I got that, I hopped the bus. I came home. I still got my snow pants on. I made myself a cocoa because I was soaking wet. I had icicles because it was snow rain. My cheeks were frozen because it was slapping me in the face. But I was perfectly content because I got my Mother Nature. I got a really good walk in. I got a different landscape done. I got my granny wagon and a few groceries. So hopped on a bus. Bus came right away. And I'm home now. Life is good. Back to work tomorrow. Okay. So let's kill this question off, okay? And for those of you who pop in later on, if you happen to see this question, just write it down in the bottom in the comments, your answer, okay? And I'll pop in later, right? And read them. What is one perception of you that people get wrong? Well, I'm going to tell you a story about my bangs, right? Being an empath, and it's quite prevalent to the kind of topics that we talk about, because being highly sensitive and being empathic, you know, I am on the norm, right? Just very come in, get the job done, and get it done in a way that I can go off and do my life, right? Do my life. I live and live and let live person. My dad was a very much live and let live person. I just wanted to do my own thing, but sometimes, and if you're like me, you run into this where, you know, 90% of the people that you pass by, right? You might not get a hello or a smile or anything, but they're not going for the dig. They're not going for the jugular, right? They're not going to say anything mean or disrespect you. They're just going to go on your way. There's going to be 10% of people that you bump into on a daily basis that you're not going to rub well with you. They're not going to like you at all. They might not, and most likely, they're not even going to know why they don't like you, right? And they'll start analyzing and stuff so that they have a perspective as to why they don't like you, right? Even if they don't really know why. They were just looking for a reason. And you know these people. These are the ones that crank at you, that are rude to you, that roll their eyes at you, that when you're explaining something, they're not giving you the time of day. The ones who don't mean you well, the ones who do go for the jugular, the ones that don't have anything nice to say, that it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to say something. It's going to kind of bring you down. But like I said, some people, they don't know why they don't like you. And they come across your path for the first time, being an empath, highly sensitive. It could be ridiculous, truly, in the reception that you might get. Even in you minding your own business, or even in moving forward, and right, overextending the kindnesses, and right, you doing the smiling and touching base, and in the inquiries and the care, and right, but still it will find you, right, it will find you. And I would have to say, 10% of people are capable, right, are capable of ripping you a new one. Truly. And for no reason. They don't even know why. But in that moment, like I said, they'll find a reason, right? They'll find they don't like the way you looked at them, or right? They'll think they'll think they heard something that you said about them, or they'll blame you for something that somebody else did, just so that they can get a rise out of you. And lots of times it's without intent, right? They don't mean to do that, but it just happens. It's just the way it goes, right? And so I understand that. But in my adapt and conquer, in finding ways, right? Because you can only be as nice as you can be nice, right? You can be as nice as and as sweet and as smooth as butter, and it may or may not do you any good in that. So what I do, here it comes with the bangs, right? To give somebody a different perspective than the perspective that they have, right? Right? Because they have a wrong perspective. Because, right, I know I'm a good person, right? If somebody gives me a chance in having a conversation, right, passing along those kindnesses are not hard. And most likely, I'll recognize you're an amazing person, and you'll recognize, right, that maybe I'm an amazing person. But at the very least, you might stop yourself from doing or saying something mean or something that you can't take back. If you take that moment and go, oh my goodness, she's got pink bangs. That woman's got some personality. Should I say anything to her? So that's what it is. It's to give somebody a moment to really think about, do you really want to say something? Do you really want to do something? Do you really want to trigger them? Right? That woman's got some personality. And the thing is, I am a kind person. Maybe, right? I might look at you and just turn around and keep going. But for those of you who hang out with me, I'm not a big believer in turn the other cheek. I am not, because I believe it gives people permission, if you turn the other cheek, to go off and do the exact same thing that they did to you to somebody else. And I would have to take responsibility if that person, for at least a little bit, right? We have to protect ourselves. And that is a protective mood, just to turn around and walk away, to turn the other cheek. But also, I understand that there has to be lessons, right? There has to be accountability for our actions, right? And so, if I can save you from that accountability, that you're not going to go in for the kill, right? That you're not going to say something mean, that you're not going to intentionally trigger me, right? That we can just, even at the very least, be courteous. Is the word courteous? No, the word's not courteous. The word is cordial. Cordial. There's a good word. To each other, right? I just want to give you a few extra seconds to, in that perception, in that analyzing, in that hypervigilance, in that shuffling around of all the details to come up with a conclusion of, maybe I won't say anything. Maybe we'll let this one slide. Maybe I don't need to rip out her throat. Maybe I don't need to crawl down her throat, right? Maybe I don't need to say anything mean. It just takes a lot of energy out of me, right? She looks like somebody's going to just turn around and rip me a new one if I try to rip her a new one, right? And it's not. This is my personality. This is somebody who her entire life has stood out like a sore thumb, being an obese person, right? Obese child, teenager, an obese young adult, even an obese adult. I don't feel that obesity in me. I feel I'm overweight. I could lose 20 pounds, no problem. But I am healthy and I'm grateful for my good health. So the way I perceive myself, right, my perception of myself is a little bit less accountable. Or not, it's not accountable. Like, like I don't beat myself up about it, right? I don't beat myself up about it, but I do know that misery does love company. I do realize that. And I think for the most part, that's why people bite like that, right? And, you have to put yourself in their shoes. If they felt like so bad, they needed to bring somebody down to their level instead of, right, tearing me a new one and bring me down to your level. Maybe you could say hi to me, right? Because I'm going to recognize in that smile, might recognize in your eyes, right? Might recognize in your demeanor what a kind thing she did. And she's not feeling it, right? There's something, all right? There's something there, but how sweet it was of her to, say hi to me or ask me how I was doing, right? I don't need to know a moment ago all the things that were rushing through her head, what she thought of me, what she wanted to tell me, what she wanted to do to me. I don't need to know that, right? Right? Because those are her thoughts and her actions said it for me. And her actions were enough, right? They truly were enough because there was a time in my life where it was just action, right? It was just constant like that, right? Because I did turn the other cheek. Not all the time, right? Because it's my nature not to. But out of respect for the people I was with, for the respect of my father, not to agitate my father, right? I was brought up to think like, don't agitate your dad, Sydney. You're gonna give him a heart attack, right? I lived with that. I lived with that, right? And I'm not saying it in a right because it is what it is. It is what it is. But I take it as the lessons for myself, right? And those lessons for myself get to be lessons for others because I share those experiences. And maybe you might have had one of those experiences, right? And people get me wrong all the time, right? Because, well, we don't quite often share about ourselves. I share a lot here. I share a lot here. If you guys, right, if you were to betray me, right? If somebody that I saw here every single week or right, I've known for a couple of months or a couple of years, we know each other well enough to know what triggers. And you guys know what I talk about. I talk about my life. I talk about my experiences and I share those as lessons for others. But if somebody were to use those lessons against me, right, I would know, right? Because I share it. And it would be obvious that you used what you knew about me against me. So for me, it's nothing to be genuine, to be honest, right? I don't spew it all because a lot of this is a journey for myself. Right? It's a lot of prep work. It's a lot of prep work. And I'm not talking about prep work for my future for the next year or 10 years because, well, there's prep work in that too. But maybe, right? I'm doing this prep work for a time that's beyond when Cindy is here. And who knows if those other parts of me will get an opportunity to come into somebody who's willing to do this kind of work, right? I can make some movement in this lifetime because I have perspectives. I have my beliefs, right? But those aren't everybody's beliefs. But it doesn't mean my lessons are less noteworthy or valuable because I'm looking to use these lessons to move me forward in lifetimes ahead. But hello, Nancy, dear, right? You could use the same lessons to advance your life, say, for next year or the next 10 years, right? Or maybe you're like me and you have this hunch. It's a little bit of a different story than what we perceive it to be, right? And I am 100% certain that we do get a lot of it wrong. We can't all be right. And not one of us could have it all right. But we can all hold a piece of it, a piece of it, a piece of that puzzle. That when that puzzle is complete, maybe we'll recognize what it truly is all about. But right now, right, we're here to create the best human being we possibly can. And the humans, right, we need that help, right? We are not going to be a species that's going to be on that extinction list. Not a chance. And to each one of us, our choices can be a contributor to the betterment or not of that, right? And well, we are responsible for our actions, not our thoughts. We'll elaborate down the road. Not tonight. That's a story for, well, when I get the word that goes perfectly with that. Hello, Nancy. How's your day going? Say hi to me, dear, before we end it off. Here, Nancy, that's a perfect question for you. To see the question up top there, Nancy? I'd love to hear your answer to that question. What is one perception of you that people get wrong? And if that's not Nancy, thank you so much for the hearts. I appreciate the hearts. It's only a reminder because I go into these spews, I go into these flows, and I'm not really concentrating on what's going on in the comments. So I'm not even sure if anybody's ever really here, right? But when I see those hearts, right, then I know it's one of the characters that normally hang out with me. And if not, well, it's somebody new. And isn't that amazing that we can just pick up people along the way, that we can travel together, that we can look at each other's perspectives and allow each other to voice those perspectives, right? Voice those perspectives, because how am I supposed to learn? How am I supposed to bump into people who live like me, who feel like me, who move like me, but in your own unique way, right? We won't be able to find each other. We won't be able to move with each other. And that's the most important thing because majority does rule 100%. I am bound to that. But I am not bound to not being able to have a say where I want to have a say, right? I've never been invisible my entire life, right? I don't have that 311 pounds on me, right? So I do things like the pink bangs, right? And I do things like showing up here fresh like a loaf of bread, right? Come into my lives. I am the person that I am, right? Because of the lessons that I've taken in, because all those different perspectives that I got to sift through and sit and listen in as a spectator, as a student. And I really, in my hypervigilance, tore things apart and put them back together in a way, well, fits me perfectly, right? And it belongs to me. It's a perspective that belongs to me, right? But the lessons belong to everybody, right? The perceptions belong to everybody because we can both see the same experience. We can listen to the same conversation, but because of the experiences we have had, different experiences that we have, we're going to take it a little bit differently. We're going to have our perceptions, right, that are going to lead us into a perspective on what we're experiencing or what we're listening to or what we're participating in 100%. Okay, you guys, I haven't even had dinner yet. I've been walking all day. It's an early day tomorrow. Back to work, busiest day of the week. We're going to get our bums kicked tomorrow. Thank you so much, everybody, for popping into my live. We are done for the week. We will be back Monday with a brand new word. I'll be still in this word perception because it held lots of lessons for me. It had a little bit of butt movement for me, like somebody kicked me in the butt to say, hey, Cindy, pay attention to this, right? This might be an opportunity for you to make some change. And sometimes it's just that little bit of readjustment so that we're looking and experiencing things a little bit differently than we did 5 minutes ago, 5 days ago, 5 years ago, or 5 lives ago. However you want to look at it. Okay, you guys. Thank you so much. That's my good cheer, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.